So our first workshop today is with Bradley Sowash. So thank you so much, Bradley, for working with us today.
Okay, I take that as my take it away cue. You know how everybody says on National Public Radio, they say, welcome, Bradley, and then they say, thank you for having me. That's like the go-to, thank you for having me. So just as an upfront bit of humor, my mother had a radio show way back when most live music, lots of live music was live, and there wasn't much recording going on. And every time I hear that, I think, wouldn't it have been funny if I could have been a guest on my mother's radio show, and then when she welcomed me, I could say, thank you for having me. So, that would be awkward. Anyway, so we're going to hit Happy Birthday. I assume you already know how to play it. And I'm going to show you how to make a nice variation on it. And the reason you might want to do this, that I found in my, I've been saying 30 years. I looked back, it's like I played gigs for 40 years for a living, full time, gigs and concerts, and then started to teach, and then crossfaded into mostly teaching and just playing once in a while. And in that process of playing gigs, there's always that occasion where you have to play some kind of tune for the occasion, such as the anniversary waltz or Happy Birthday or a Christmas song or whatever. And if they sing along, they often sing along sort of badly or whatever, and get through it, and then it's just ends. And there's that weird, awkward space that we just experienced after my dumb joke, where there's this hole in the social fabric. And so by stretching the tune into a new style, the band or the solo pianist could take it over and stretch the tune a little while as the party sort of leaked back into full force. So this is what I'm going to get into today, is how we would stretch Happy Birthday after we've played it. And just to share the screen for a minute, I'm going to be using the chords that are just standard chords here. So maybe I'll just play this one time on my piano here down below me in a sort of a real square way. F to C, stay on C, stay on F. And this has to be said, this is one of the weirdest harmonizations in commonly enjoyed popular culture, in that we have an E against this B flat. It's really quite dissonant and pretty surprising that we accept it, but there it is. The reason I mention that is, if you're trained with theory, this is a point where at least I find it hard to play the B flat when I'm just not remembering the chords. I think, oh, it's an E. It must be a C7 chord, but it isn't, because that's sort of a suspended sharp 4 or something. It's just really surprising for such a simple folk song. So we're going to be using just those simple chords, and we've played that, and everybody's like, happy birthday, and for he's a jolly good fellow, and all that kind of stuff. And then we're back to the tune. So what does the band play? I'm going to show you what they might do first, and then I'll break it down for you. So let's just have a listen. I'll show you my piano in a minute, but let's just enjoy what might happen. And then everybody claps, and on this chord, I would set up the groove. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through how to do a Latin version of this. And Latin, that just needs to be said, is a sort of an American way of describing a very rich and diverse musical culture that includes all kinds of things like calypso and tango and New York salsa music and Brazilian sambas and bossa novas. It's a very wide term, and a lot of times jazz players will just say Latin, and it's just generic meaning. Let's do some of the cliches from those many styles. And that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to show you this in 3 steps. I'm just going to hit it in a basic version. Then we're going to look at an intermediate way to play it. And then I'll show you some little bit more advanced tricks. So the first thing that we did here, and just type it in the chat. What did you notice about the melody and the? I don't want to give it away. The the length of the measures. So let me just look in the chat there for a minute. Yes, we have time signature. Time signature went to 4/4. So a lot of times on a 3/4 tune, it's just, we're not going to play a waltz all the way through to the party because, let's face it, we don't live in 19th century Vienna, and Strauss has kind of lost some of his influence, and the crowd is not going to go into their corporate party by doing a waltz. And so I'd like to do something more contemporary. So when you go from 3/4 to 4/4, just make a little mental note. You want to stretch the tune, not reduce it. We don't want to sort of go to 2/4 or chop off beats. Just add a beat and take a little extra time. And then we're going to start by just the first thing you could do under that melody is put a bass line. And the bass line that we are going to use is played 2 ways. There's just to give them some fun names and sound like I know what I'm talking about. It's played as a habanera rhythm, which is a kind of a Cuban rhythm, or tresillo. You may know this better as, say, like a rumba rhythm, which is a dance, the rumba, not so much a rhythm. So it's that 3-3-2, or that long, short sound. And of course, you find this all over the place as early as Scott Joplin's Solace, his Mexican Serenade, or way back in the 1900s, you find that what Jelly Roll Morton called the Spanish tinge, and it'll show up in W.C. Handy's sort of tango that's buried in the middle of St. Louis blues. It's been around a while, but it was really became a bigger deal in a little later, particularly when the Brazilian influence started to enter American jazz sound. And so we're here that bass line, it sounds something like this. Right? Or it might be with that rhythm. Let's just take a quick look at that rhythm. Because one of the things about this is it's perceived by us as some kind of syncopation. Because we're not reared in this style, but it really is the ground beat of a lot of Latin music. In other words, it is not 2 sets of 4/4. If we think about this as one measure of music, you can see here I have some divots here in this rhythm board. So this is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we're used to thinking about music as 1, 2, 3, 4, and everybody's even and organized. In the tresillo or Brazilian sound, we're going to have this rhythm be right here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. If we're counting eighth notes, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And if we, I realize it's a little dark for the screen today, so I'll bring this up. So I just give into your head that this is your basis. This isn't a weird rhythm. If you were to see this notated, it would come off as something that is syncopated and strange. So it might be notated. Here's the chords to Happy Birthday, by the way. We would often notate this correctly in our musical system like that, which gives the eye a sense that there are 3 different sounds here. There's this dotted chord, oh, that's 1.5 beats, and oh, that starts on the and of 2, and gee, it goes for a while. We could see it that way. But it's really felt much more like this. Just 2 sets of 3 and a 2 beat in terms of eighth notes. So that's not correct notation to have dotted quarter, quarter. But like choir members, for example, tend not to be great rhythmic readers. So when I write this rhythm for choirs, I actually write it this way because I can see that the first 2 are the same. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, or long, short. And what you're going to play in the left hand is a root on 1 and a fifth on the middle note, the second long one, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And what you play on the last note per measure can be either the root or the fifth, and it could be in any octave. So these are all variations of this same rhythm. Let's just take a look at it. Just the fifth. We could play the fifth up and then down. We could also go down first. And we could even go back to the root. So all of those satisfy the bass function of showing that ground beat rhythm and also suggesting the chord. Notice there are no thirds in there. It's all just roots and fifths. So the roots on one and the fifths are the other options, and those can even be also roots. So it would be possible to play it like this. And see if I can get more contrast here. No, not right now. So the first thing to do is put that bass line. This would be the basic way to make this into a Latin piece. And I'll go ahead and put a bossa nova beat on my piano here. Just with the bass line. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so I blew it on the B flat chord, and that happened because I'm looking at Leela's 3/4 handout here. So I'd probably be better off to look at my own chords. My eye just took over my ear, and that is a little lesson, a teachable moment there, in that our eye tends to dominate all our other senses. And when we're improvising, one of the best things to do is get that music away from your eyes, because especially as reading musicians, we want to play what we see, and that's exactly what just happened there. So we have that little cognitive dissonance. So that would be the basic part of it here. So right now, let's just review what we've done so far, and I'll tell you what we're going to do next. What we did so far is we took a 3/4 tune, stretched it into 4/4 time, and then we added a bass line associated with Brazilian Latin music, and I like to call it the tresillo rhythm. Though that rhythm can happen in any instrument, or some people refer to it as a rumba. We know this sound. For those of you who have a little more Latin training, it's the first half of a 2-measure clave. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that was just an aside.
Bradley, can you say, how do you spell tresillo?
Tresillo.
Okay.
So it's based on a habanero rhythm, which is very, very similar. I'll go ahead and show that real quick. Or it's not based on, but the variation on it is so simple. It just adds another beat here. This is more the Cuban way. So if we tie this note, it's a little bit more Brazilian, and that's all give and take and loosey-goosey, just because this is an art form that is enjoyable to play as non-practitioners of the true sound. We can have some fun with it and just get the generic Latin sound going. So we're going to move on to intermediate now, and I'll do it first, and then I'll show you what I'm doing. So we'll do it first this way. See if you can pick out what is different about my right hand. So 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, I'm going to look at the chat here. Diana's got it. She's cheating because she's had 2 or 3 lessons with me. I call those hang chords. Hang chords means that you put the rhythm, you put the most easily grabbed notes from the chord under the melody note. They need to be under for the ear to understand them. So this note E is in a C chord. Well, it's simple for me to grab a bit of a C chord, 1 or 2 notes, maybe 3. So I can play that, or just this, or this. And so when the chord changes, it's not necessary to keep it going the whole time. You could put a little chord on there. So something like this. So just aiming for downbeats or chord changes as opposed to this. That's too many chords. Just throw a little bit of hanging the right hand melody chord down off the melody. And that is a Bradley word. I think Jeremy can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just worried that if you go into your theory class and say, hey, I want to play some hang chords, you might get a funny look. The idea is just hanging the notes off the melody there. And then in the intermediate phase we're looking at, the next thing I want you to practice is to play offbeat black chord accompaniment. And let's just do that without the bass line, without the melody, just for a second. And so it sounds like this, just on an F chord. 1 and 2. If that's, if it's too fast, let me pull this down to like 120. You're playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And so if we think about that rhythmically, there's something happening on beat 1s. It tends to be the bass. So let's go ahead and put the bass here that we're playing. And let's regard this as our left hand. It'll come into focus here in a minute, I think. And come on, camera. I got to convince it to look at this. Okay. And then the right hand is just playing these chords all on and beats. Let's see, 1, 2, and. We could just do there. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2. Or you could play all of them as and beats, letting the bass cover the 1. So this is the bass line. Dong, ding, gong, ding, ding, dong. Right hand is playing 1 and 1 and, or off beats. 1 off, on, off. So get that down. You can practice it just like this at first. And then when you put the bass line back in, it's kind of convenient because the second note of the tercio rhythm lines up with the chord right there. So it's not too hard. Let's go to B flat, or C7. And then for B flat, any inversion's fine for practicing the hands working together. So what we will do then is take the advantage of the pauses in the tune. Happy birthday to you. We have this big space in 4/4. Well, that's a great time to throw in some of those and chords like this. There's my F. Whenever it's convenient. So right in the end there, I picked up some of the ands with my left hand because it seemed like my right hand was busy. And that's a key point. You want to make this comfortable. Don't go turn yourself into circles to get all these elements going. Just when it feels good in the bottom of the hand and it seems possible, throw in some hang chords. When there's a big space in the melody, put a little bit of accompaniment. And the effect is that the listener, instead of hearing a piano player play, lots of notes, they're hearing lots of layers. So we hear this bass line, we hear this, and we hear the melody. So we have a sense that there's a bassist, maybe like a guitar doing ging, 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 and a singer or a melody player, all within this mini orchestra that I like to call a hand band. So that would be an intermediate way to approach that. And of course, if someone's singing, we could just go off and just play those chords underneath there. So let me see if there's any questions, and I'll show you a few advanced tricks to make it a little bit more fun here. You finally put in the G minor, says Judy. Yeah, I'm trying to keep this really straight. I also played a B diminished a minute ago. Let's look at those chords again for a second. To be honest, it was hard for me. Sometimes I play a B diminished right here just out of habit, and the F is over C, and this can also be a G minor here. So I might find my hands. I think I think Jeremy will be nodding in appreciation and Paul. You try to teach an improv concept and you try to keep clean, but you end up doing other stuff in your fingers that are habituated. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap it up by showing you a couple advanced tricks that we're working on in Latin Jazz 2 online class. And this has to do with rocking those chords. So instead of doing this, we're going to go like this. So I'm rocking between thumb and the top two notes. And they're mostly offbeats. I'm not going to drill down on that rhythm too much right now. And the rhythm can be loose. So you're converting your offbeat chords to something like a broken chord, but it's more like a bottom of the chord, top of the chord in any inversion. And then just to give you a little glimpse into how you can really stretch this, by playing around with your thumb notes, you can do some nice things. Often it's a 7-6 pattern. So this is getting a little advanced here, but instead of playing my thumb on F, I'm going to play it on E. I'm not worried about it if it's a major 7 or not. I'm just worried about that I'm in the key. So listen. I'll keep that rhythm going, but I'm going to oscillate my thumb between the 7 and the 6 below the root. What a sound. We're going to recognize this. So that really starts to sound very Latin. Right here, it's sometimes, should I use the 7? Should I use the 6? It doesn't matter a whole lot. So that was a little bit of just pushing through. When I'm not sure what to do, I'll just push through, play a little scale or something. And you can mix and match those. Now, one more little trick. If you take that same pattern and you double the thumb notes, and again, I'm doing this a quick demonstration behind the curtain. That's something I'd work on a lot more carefully in given more time. But we're going to take that same idea and we're going to break it up. Okay? And then you can even double the thumb note in your pinky, and we get this wonderful Latin sound. And so I'm just taking this idea of the motion in the thumb and the pinky and turning it into kind of a solo. It's kind of a slow melody. Something like that. 7 and 6 is a good reach, good thing to go for, but the line is more important than being true to the keeping the 7-6 in your thumb. So you just try to play a little melody. So let me check the chat here real quick, and then I'll just play a second more to give you one more time of a sort of full-blown version. Let's see if there's any questions or anything. I'm thinking I probably lost a few of you in that advanced part, but let's review. This is what we did. Basic steps were to stretch 3/4 into 4/4 and add a typical Latin bass line. The intermediate steps were to add offbeat block chord accompaniment and hang chords. I should have said hang chords first, adding hang chords under the melody and then working with those hang chords to get them offbeat. And then the advanced idea was to rock on those chords, do, dee, do, dee, dee, perhaps varying the thumb with 7 and 6 or other nearby notes. And then the very advanced idea was to convert those into stretched, broken chords with motion that's doubled from the thumb and the pinky. So there's lots of stuff there to explore. you don't need to do it all to have a good time with this tune. Let me take it out with a little bit of one more time through it, and I'll see what I can do here. All right. So have fun with that and enjoy your creative Latin music making journey. Thank you. I see a couple of bit of applause there. I'll hand it over to Paula.
That was amazing. I think some people spontaneously started clapping. Some people were dancing. What a treat. That was so much fun, dude, to just hear
Thank you, Paula.
come with it at the end. Thank you so much, Bradley.